the four-dimensional model. It is apparent that Ken Wilber discovered the four quadrants by understanding that reality is not one-dimensional. And so he brought in four dimensions, or four quadrants, four places in which things can fall out on a line. So there's levels in terms of the y-axis, and there's lines in terms of the x-axis. So we got the I, self, and consciousness, which is normally second tier and first tier. We got the we, culture, and worldview, which goes all the way up to 8 integral, which supposedly is stage coral-ish. This is how this graph is setting it up, which makes sense. I personally put integral lower down, closer to yellow, which I considered their teal, which is pluralistic, in between pluralistic and holistic. And integral comes back in stage teal. So there's a reason, there's a coincidence, but it's also probably, a reason for that. And the reason why integral comes back in stage teal is because everything is true. And you realize that more in this model, in this stage. Okay, so that's the we, culture, worldview, and then you got the it's on the bottom right, which is social, system, and environment. And so this has 8 again, going from survival until integral, or stage teal. And that is foraging, aggregation, informational, horticultural, industrial. I'll have to look up that first word. Organic, and then the top right is the it, the brain and the organism. Organic states, limbic systems, neocortex refers to our neurological functions and biological functions. So you have it, organism, I, self or consciousness, we, cultural worldview, and its social system. Now what's interesting is recently I published a video on the I, that in order to have wisdom or truth, you have to be selfless, no I. But what happens is if there's no I, then there's just I. There's just the world. In my philosophy, the world becomes we. Our opinion, which supposedly is a lower level because you're going away from self. But in my model, there's overlap between we and I, or in my understanding. And so what that would entail, there's a combination between the I and the we when it comes to how to find truth. And the reason why we is what creates truth is because 1 minus the I is still we. It's just I'm not focusing on that portion of the we. So we is the same thing as non-I or I itself. Specifically because when there is no I, you become the higher I, the self-I. And then the self-I is intertwined with we. So it is above we, but it's actually also on the same level. So I want to explore this. This is half-baked because I'm thinking about it as I go. This video will be edited because it's my first time exploring the four quadrants in depth. I just never cared for it. I always liked the linear model better. But it seems that I need to combat with some rivals, supposedly. So I need to become more fluent in it. Plus, I want to work with Ken Wilber. I want to show him my models and harmonize it with this model. So, if I could do that, then clearly I'm up for the task. So we went through the four quadrants. We went through relatively what they were and how it relates to wisdom. But here is the point of the video. The four-dimensional model. So my suggestion is that when it comes to no self, the reason why no self is compatible with we or you or the higher I is because the higher I is the lower self. The higher I is we. It's using us to navigate the world because we're one with the I itself. So you can't escape the we. So the I is actually on the same level as we from this idea. So even though it's a different quadrant, it's actually the same quadrant. And you can apply ideas like, that's the unity of consciousness. They're all one aspect, just framed in a different way. But I may even go further. The I might even be we. And so that's something I want to explore. I'm not eliminating the four quadrants, God forbid. But what I am doing is saying that maybe there's a 4D model. There's something we're missing. There's another dimension. where the I and the we are one. And if you look at the hypercube, you know how it goes in and out when it moves, because space works differently when you go 4 dimensions and higher. So there's a point that's combining. There's a point where the cube's lines intersect in some fashion that doesn't exist in our 3D world. And so the I and the we would intersect on that particular rhythm or flux. And so even though there's 4 quadrants, there's even more dimensions to this 4-quadrant model. It goes even deeper than Ken Wilber thought. And I'm sure he's thought of this because apparently he thinks of everything. He's part of the collective unconscious. And that's another reason why he's in thought. People say, oh, if you're non-dual, you should be not in thought. But if you're a leader and you have a mission statement, you have an organization that wants to be integral, already you're going to be thinking what they're thinking to prepare to how to answer them. So that's one of the reasons why a leader ends up thinking what their followers are going to ask. On occasion, I have followers who ask questions that simply brainstorm why I may have missed something. But that's why I bring this up. And recently, I'm going to make a video on him. I have a follower. His name is Haramstufe Mint. Very intelligent guy. He writes in a very youthful way, so people may miss how smart he is. But he said something that made me think about this 4-dimensional model that I've been thinking about. Because I'm applying the 4-dimensional model to intelligence. And I have psychic awareness, so I already know that Ken Wilber would be interested in the 4-dimensional model. It's because it's the truth that intelligence is not one this, one that. It's literally tons of dimensions. And if you just change your perspective, that guy who you thought was an idiot is a genius. And he is an idiot. In that paradigm, he's an idiot. But in this paradigm, he's an ultimate genius. And so that's where the 4-dimensional model of intelligence also applies. I can show you guys, if you're interested, the exact question that I found that was not correct. But those who are saying it's incorrect, it's because they're probably not past stage coral. Once you get into stage teal and above, no, even aubergine probably, you'll have an intelligence that goes so far beyond how people think that you'll start overcomplicating things. Or you might overcomplicate things. And some people who are more in their heart center, this doesn't mean you're in green. This doesn't mean you're only in teal, right? Teal or violet, which is near tier 4 even. It doesn't mean you're in these stages, but what it does mean is you have a different dimension of thinking. And so a person answered a question that was very like lovey-dovey that wasn't with the intellect. So she didn't have an IQ that was that high because she was compassionate. So she answered differently. But it doesn't mean she had a lower IQ. It just means her IQ functioned in a different way. And so that's why the 4-dimensional intelligence model will be revolutionary when we put it together. So I want to work with Ken Wilber on that as well. So Haramstufe deserves his own video, and that's going to tackle the issue of the reverse linear model. So this is a claim that there's, we know that time moves in 2 directions from stage turquoise and quantum mechanics, which usually stage turquoise is the only ones who are willing to go into quantum mechanics full throttle with the materialist paradigm, because they don't mind not being nonlinear. So the reverse model will be talked about soon enough. I'm coming up with it in the next video. All right, I hope you enjoy this as the intro to the 4D model in general. This refers to the 4D model of intelligence, but that is probably going to be derived from the 4D model of the 4 quadrants. So it's like a 4-quadrant model, a 4D quadrant model. Instead of 4 quadrants, just 4D quadrant. That's what it's probably going to be, but these names could evolve over time. And that's the starting point. So take care, everybody. Have a great evening, day, whatever it is. All the best.